I've been tasked with recovering photos from this born Android tablet. It contains photos of someone's son who has sadly passed away. The photos have not been backed up, but the owner would like to be able to retrieve them. I've been told it stopped charging long ago. They had a local repair shop solder on a new charge port, but that hasn't fixed the tablet. But I'm questioning that repair shop's skill, as even from the outside, the repair looks botched. There is pry damage from attempting to open the device incorrectly. I'll connect the micro USB cable through my current meter to see if the tablet is drawing any current at all. And it's drawing absolutely nothing. It's as if it's not plugged in at all. Given the prior repair involved the charge port, this is what I'll be checking first. Unlike the previous tech, I won't be prying at the decorative metal back panel, but between the housing and display in order to open this tablet. Despite this being a low-end device manufactured in 2013, sometimes even e-waste is worth fixing, because it's not the value of the tablet, it's the value of the data on the tablet. Inside, it's not a pretty sight. There's leftover plastic film from either the factory or a previous repair. The battery's wires have melted and are poorly soldered, and the battery itself is puffy and emitting a foul odor. On top of that, someone has resoldered the antenna wires. Let's work on getting the motherboard free so we can have a look at the charge port and what's being done to it. I'll need to disconnect the power button flex cable, the LCD and digitizer cables before unscrewing several Phillips screws. After which the board is free but still tethered to the battery, speaker and antennas through soldered connections. I can unscrew the speaker's bracket while still leaving the wires attached. The same goes with the two antennas, one of which is for mobile networks. This tablet is 3G capable, although Australia is not a 3G capable country, at least not anymore. The battery is to come out next. I think the strongest part of this whole tablet is the battery adhesive, because it's relentless. Alcohol was needed to help soften the adhesive holding it in place, but it still took quite a bit to pry out. This battery is definitely no good. It's unlikely to take a charge, so I'll have to replace it with something on hand when we reassemble the device. Flipping the board over, we can finally inspect the charge port. And as I expected, it's a botched job. Watch the pins on the connector as I rock it back and forth. They're not even connected. If I connect the charger and press down on the pins, allowing them to make contact with the motherboard, we get an instant current draw. Granted, it's not very much, cycling between 30 and 150 milliamps. But that's to be expected when there's no battery connected. The tablet is likely to just boot loop as it's looking for a battery. So it's time for this board to go under the microscope for repair. Using the smallest soldering iron tip I have access to, I could begin connecting each pin to the board. What makes micro soldering challenging is that you're looking at it almost two-dimensionally. It's hard to gauge depth, so it might look like you've just soldered a connector onto the board, when in reality the pins are hovering above the board. And I think that's what's happened to the previous tech. In this case, I was able to just simply press them down as I soldered them, allowing the solder to bridge between the pads on the board and the pins on the charge port. I am by no means an expert at micro soldering, but I can solder the odd connector or component into place. Once I've soldered and cleaned the board, I'll use a bent set of tweezers to ensure the pins are solid before checking there's no shorts with a multimeter. With that, it's time for a test. And would you look at that, the board now draws current when the USB cable is attached. But we won't get far without a working battery. For a replacement, I'll salvage one from this knockoff Samsung Galaxy S23. This phone was part of a video I did on cheap AliExpress phones. In that video, I discussed how they use software to fake specifications and how you could use my app iTest to check for spoofed hardware info. But even if you're not suspect that your phone has fake specifications like this one, my app iTest can also be used to test various hardware functions, including the touchscreen, compass, gyroscope, screen burn-in, and even voice over LTE, making it useful for phone repairers and those selling their phone or wanting to diagnose hardware issues. It's available for both Android and iOS. I picked this device specifically as most low-end devices from sites like AliExpress have their batteries soldered onto the motherboard, rather than using a connector. Like the tablet, the battery is glued in and requires some careful prying to remove. This battery does have an extra white wire, which I think relays BMS info and temperature sensor information to the device. The tablet lacks this function no matter what battery we install. The original a 3.7 volt at 3000 mAh, the replacement a 3.8 volt. It's not an exact replacement, which isn't advised for regular use. However, as this is not a restoration, we don't have to make the tablet perfect, but just working enough to retrieve the data. The power button flex cable can appear to be fully seated, when in reality it isn't. When faced with a short cable like this, it can be helpful to use tweezers to gently clamp the cable into the connector. Once the motherboard is back into place, the battery can be tacked in. Taping the extra wire aside to prevent any shorts. With that, the back panel can be attached. After some minor panel beating work, we can give the device a test. This time when plugged in, it draws 1.1 amps and displays the charging screen. It's alive. And with the press of the power button, the device begins booting. With a new battery and charge port repair, this tablet is now working. Unlocking the tablet and navigating to the photo gallery, everything's here. Needless to say, the owner was very happy to see the tablet alive at last, after the previous shop told him it was cactus. The last step for me is to transfer the photos and videos from the tablet to a USB, which I can do using Android file transfer, official Google software as outdated as this tablet. But once it's transferred, the data has been successfully recovered. And we're done. So this is it, a successful data recovery on this Born tablet. Photos thought to be gone forever of their lost son have now been returned to them. For those who have never heard of the brand Born, it's an Aldi brand, which is a discount supermarket store that has an alternating selection of cheap home goods they call special buys. They even preloaded their own apps onto the device, one of which doesn't even work in landscape. Like the rest of the tablet, the touchscreen isn't all that flash, but it does work. There are a few other apps installed, but it looks as though this tablet wasn't really used for much more than capturing photos and videos. According to the antivirus that was pre-installed to the tablet, it was last used in late 2014. And that's the issue with a lot of cheap things. They never seem to be used for all that long, whether because they break or are just inadequate at the task they were designed for. I did do a quick camera test to give you an idea of the quality of this tablet. The camera also has a really loud autofocus, which is unusual for a mobile device. You may have noticed the screen cracked on this tablet sometime throughout this video when it was laying face down on my bench. I reviewed the footage and the only time I heard a crack was when I lightly pressed the microphone into place. I didn't think anything of it at the time, but if that's what broke it, this thing really is weak. Thankfully, the owner doesn't care about the tablet, so it's not a big deal. And on that note, this has been a Hugh Jeffries video. If you like what you saw, consider subscribing and check out the Tech Repair playlist for more videos just like this one. And if you're looking for any used devices, be sure to check out my online store, link for which is down in the description. That's all for this video, and I'll catch you guys next time.